Thanks for joining Solicited, a podcast hosted by me, Nichole,
And me, Caitlin.
where we talk about all the things related to life in our 30s.
Welcome back to our mini series on the 5 love languages. Today, we're going to be talking about physical touch. Now, this language isn't all about the bedroom, y'all. A person whose primary love language is physical touch is not surprisingly kind of touchy, very touchy. They like hugs, pats on the back, holding hands, thoughtful touches. And this can all be a way to show excitement, love, care, concern in a relationship, not just an intimate relationship, but a friendship to your family members, to whoever you come into contact with. Now, physical touch fosters a sense of security and belonging in any type of relationship. And when you think about it, your love language and especially physical touch is directly related to your basic needs. And the basic needs is love and connection. Everyone wants to be seen, be loved, and feel heard. And if you aren't in a romantic relationship, you can still have love and connection, like I said, with your friends and your family. And that's where the physical presence comes in, and it's very crucial.
The distinction that you make between physical touch as a love language and sexual physical touch is really fascinating to me because I think that those two concepts get very quickly used interchangeably in a way that I don't think is accurate from what you're saying. When you said, these are people that are touchy, I know who you're talking about. We've all had those people that are touchy. And if that's not your love language, it might feel like, for me, this is not a very high ranking one for me. And when I meet those people, they're lovely people. But when I meet a touchy person, I'm like, stop touching me. And that's how I know that our love languages are different. Because for me, I'm like, I don't need this. And clearly for those people, they're just trying to communicate like some sort of like connection, a bridge between us.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think for people whose love language is physical touch, it's comes out of a sense of comfort and safety and certainty, and it makes you feel like wanted, needed, loved, all of these different things. And um I was listening to something and they were saying that you I this article had come out about servers. Actually, this just made me think of this. And if the server like touches you in like a obviously a non-sexual way, like a oh, did you enjoy this, or something like this, the tip would immediately increase. And I'm like, what is this? And I was like, is that all I need to do if I'm doing something, is touch somebody and get a tip? Like, okay, clearly people like don't put your minds in the gutter here. I'm just saying. But I think about physical touch and I realize I'm a pretty touchy person, and I never really realized it until I was listening to the book, cuz I give a lot of those things. I put my hand on somebody, like, or I'm very animated, I guess, and so I will reach over and talk to somebody in a conversation like, "Oh my gosh, did you know?" Like, in that type of situation. Um so it kind of feels natural for me. But this love language is not natural for everybody. And typically, physical touch, most of our listeners said that their husbands or their spouse's top love language was physical touch. And I'm talking 46% saying that their partner's love language was physical touch. And for me, this ranked low for me and my husband. So, fourth for both of us.
Yeah, I believe it was fourth and fifth, fourth for
Yeah,
my husband and fifth for me, something like that. So also really low.
same.
And I'm wondering if those people that entered or responded to that, if it's perceived love language, because I think this goes back to what we were saying is like, just because your partner maybe wants to have more sex, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's their love language. It could mean that, but they're not mutual. Like they're not the same. They're not the same. They're not synonymous. One is not synonymous with the other. So that's really interesting to me.
And this is why I want and really highly encourage people to have their significant other take the love language test, because I thought that my husband's physical touch would have gone higher for hugging, kissing, whatever, touching, holding hands. But I also think that, like you were just saying, it gets perceived that this love language is purely intimate and intimacy with your partner. And that is not what this love language all is. It's not, it doesn't even really touch on the sexual aspect of it. It's really all the non-sexual touching. So the another key point I want to make here is that so many people, if you have physical touch without the expectation of sex, it might make your partner actually want and to have more sex with you and feel more loved and connected, and potentially lead to a more sexual touch if you had physical touch without the expectation of the end game. Um,
Mm.
and I really think that if more people realized that the small moments really help make up the big moments, we'd be in a lot different of a place. And I do want to touch on the fact that even if you and your partner, like if we're talking just in the intimate relationship, you and your significant other, your partner, your husband, your wife, whoever, if you are struggling or feeling disconnected from your partner, start by trying small physical touches every single day. Hug and a kiss in the morning, hug and a kiss at night, holding hands while out in public. Like these kind of small moments, I think start to bring couples back together and remember why they chose each other in the first place, of, kind of like bringing it back to dating and not just having to schedule and make time for the actual intimate acts that most people want to be in. Uh,
Mm.
I know that that was kind of like random, but my head just was like thinking about it and how people, you get disconnected at some point, and how do you bring it back? You have to go back to the basics. You have to go back to the beginning. How did you and your partner even start dating? Like you were holding hands, you were kissing each other on the cheek, you were basically pursuing them and dating them in order to get the physical touch that you wanted. I just think that touch comes touch means different things for different people, plain and simple. So my definition of touch could be very different than my husband's definition of touch. This is just like what we talked about in the previous episode about quality time. What your definition is could drastically be different than your spouse's. So this is a good conversation to have and say, okay, what does physical touch mean to you? Non-sexually, sexually, you can talk about both topics.
Do you think that people whose love language ranks high for physical touch are the people that you associate with the PDA type folks, the public displays of affection types of folks, or do you think they're not linked?
No, I definitely think they could be linked. You know what I really think it comes down to is how much love and affection they had as a child. Um, because I just think so much goes back scientifically to
Family of origin?
family of origin. Yeah, for sure. And like we were talking about again in a previous episode, quality time is my love language. I enjoy quality time and being around people, and that's how my cup gets filled. And my family's very touchy-feely. Like, you always hug hello, you hug goodbye. Now that I have a child, everyone is always like, "Oh, baby," it's and physical touch just in general. Um, so I kind of feel like my needs were always met there. So I think a lot of times when somebody's love language is physical touch, it either means that they had it a lot in childhood and they still like crave it and need it, or the complete opposite of they didn't have it and their basic needs weren't being met. So now they need to feel that love and connection from either their partners, their family members, their friends, um, really just whoever they come into contact with.
That makes sense. I could see where this one could get really contentious in a relationship if they are not matched or like really understood. The physical touch one, where, I'm perceived as prickly because I'm like, quit touching me, and then my partner is like, oh, but I'm trying to connect, and then feels really rejected. So I could see how
Mm.
this one, and I think physical rejection. Oof, I think that's a different kind of rejection.
Where's my red flag? Because right
Yeah.
there, yeah, no, it's like it. rejection, first off, rejection in general does not have to just be sexually rejected. Rejection in general is hard for anybody to stomach. No one wants to be rejected. No one wants their wants and needs and dreams and desires to be stomped on. Like, that feels shitty at the end of the day. But then you also have to kind of reflect and figure out why did that feel like that to you? Um, Especially too when, say, your spouse is tired, you're not, and you're revving ready to go, like you're not matching. Now again, this isn't, physical touch is not all just sexual, but I think it's important because you said the rejection and rejecting your partner, no one wants that.
The other thing that it makes me think of too, as you're kind of talking, as we're talking this through, is unlike some of the other love languages, quality time, kind of flexible what that means, easily led to miscommunication. Acts of service, kind of debatable what that might mean. Words of affirmation, sort of debatable, a little bit intangible. Physical touch is actually pretty tangible. And if you touch somebody and they bristle, like that is immediate, very clear feedback in a way that like some of these other ones, we can, I think, talk ourselves around and you know what I mean? Like self-soothe in a different way, be like, oh, well, it's not me that they're rejecting. We're just speaking a different language. But if you feel physically rejected, I think it's very easy to personalize that.
That's a good point because um I'm just speaking from experience right now in this season of my life. I have a 6-month-old, and you get touched out being with him all day. So then sometimes my husband will come to touch me, and I don't mean to cringe or jump or whatever, but like it happens because I've been touched and needed and everything all day, that my my body's like literally saying. So
Mm-hmm.
um I think you brought up a really great point though, is that physical touch, and even just like the hand on the shoulder. Like, I know some people hate that, but other
Mm-hmm.
people are like, oh, like they're just showing that they care. And it looks different for everybody. And that, in the sense of rejection, like people go like this and like move off at the shoulder and they're like, oh, don't touch me. Cough, cough, you. Like,
That is
that's
me.
just, that's just life. For, I think it's also understanding and like being able to read people a little bit and figure out what their love language is, maybe even in conversation. Man, maybe everyone just needs to wear a stamp on their head saying, this is my top love language, don't touch me, you know?
Yeah, and I know you're joking about me, but it's actually really true. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I think it's connected. I'm also a person that needs a lot of personal space. Like, if somebody even walks too close to me on my way to my car, I like spin around angrily, and I'm like, why are you walking so close to me? So I'm just like a person that really feels like I need my space. And yeah, especially if I don't know you and then you touch me, I'm not gonna like that. I will touch obviously people that I am very close with. Like if we're good friends, I'm gonna hug you and greet you hello. I'm gonna hug you and say goodbye. Like that, yes. But if we're strangers or have a purely professional relationship, like at work, those sorts of things, I'm like, we're not touching. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, different strokes for different folks, man. Like, it just like, I think being a teacher, it's different because I, a lot of my students, like, they don't always get that warm hello in the morning and like starting their
Mm-hmm.
morning off on the right foot. So, so many teachers nowadays like, do you want a fist bump, a high five, a hug? Like, what do you need this morning? Like when you greet your kids at the door. And so I always just let my kids, like, if they wanted to hug me, they could hug me, or I would just give them a gentle like thing on the shoulder, good morning. But you learn very quickly who likes to be touched and who doesn't. So like I knew which of my kids did not like physical touch in general. Like you could see it, that just in,
Like
I
that
think,
uncomfortable
yeah.
cringe.
Yeah, or having kids dodge you, like coming in the door like with their backpacks on, like, let me get through. So
Mm.
I really think it's just knowing people, and when in doubt, don't touch people if you don't know them. So
That's
um
such a, I wish everybody lived by that rule. When in
yeah.
doubt, don't don't touch people. That's the name of this episode.
Well, but like, for so think about this too. Like, I mean, again, I have a 6-month-old. People literally make tags for their car seats and their strollers that say, do not touch my baby, because strangers will come up and start touching babies. And that's happened. That happened to us, actually, and older people.
I'm like, how awkward to be like, excuse me, ma'am, please don't touch my child. But like, that's the position people are putting you in.
Exactly. So that's why people have tags and stuff made for strollers. But like, I didn't, I, I didn't say anything. Like, I just held my breath because, I'm a germaphobe in general. But thankfully, he had socks on too. So they came up. It was actually in Publix. I was in Publix in the morning.
Wait. This wasn't like a neighbor stranger. It lives 4 houses up. You guys wave at each other when you pick up your mail. This was a stranger.
Stranger, like, was like, oh my gosh, you're so cute. Now, mind you, stranger works at Publix, so like they work there. Yes, it's my Publix that I shop at. I have gone through this person's line probably dozens of times. Doesn't know me still. Like, I still look like a stranger. They don't know my name,
I was gonna say, are you on a
anything.
first name basis with this
No,
cashier? Okay,
no,
then it's a stranger.
exactly. So, oh, your baby's so cute, and like touch his little feet, and I'm like, okay, thanks, bye. Like, and I mean, they gave him a balloon. Thanks. Like, yeah. So I feel weird about physical touch with a baby. That's a whole nother, like, this could be another podcast episode. But
I'm also, it's so interesting. Sorry, we're about to get way potentially down a rabbit hole, but I'm also like, if you're actually, it's not a rabbit hole. If you know your love language, it's a physical touch is a high ranking love language for you, learn how to ask for permission, because not everybody out there is. And so it's nothing. I am not a touchy feely person, but if you ask permission to hug me, I'm probably going to say yes. But if you just go in for the hug, I'm going to feel really grossed out. So I'm just like, when in doubt, ask permission. Don't just go touching people. I'm sorry.
I
Like,
love this.
consent, y'all. It applies to all physical touch in physical space.
I mean, it really does, actually, because I mean, if you think about dating in general, like in the beginning of dating, um,
Yeah, you're like playing it. You're kind of eggshell. You're like kind of playing it safe, of like testing waters and like like how, like, is this okay? Is this okay? That wasn't it, and like that. We shouldn't ever kind of like stop doing that.
exactly. And that's where I was getting at, is like, I've been on a bajillion first dates. That sounded terrible, but I've really been on a lot of first dates, maybe not a bajillion, but And so you're just like trying to figure it out. Do you kiss on the first date? Do you not? Do I like you enough to even try and like see what's going on there? Are you a gentleman? Like, I always liked when people were like, "Hey, do you mind if I give you a kiss?" And that would let me be like, "Nope, not right now." Like, especially if I wasn't feeling the situation. So all you single Pringles out there, don't be afraid. This is quote unquote, there's no quote unquote needed. This is a boundary. Set your boundary. Don't do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. And that took me a while to learn. But then I was like, nope, thanks. Have a good night. Peace out. Never see you again. And I just think it's important, getting consent before any sort of, I mean, physical touch in general. Not, I wouldn't say, let me get consent to touch your shoulder. Like, hey, can I touch your shoulder? Like, that's just weird. But like, going further than that, yes.
Yeah, and I just think we should rehab the conversation about consent isn't just about sexual touch. It can be about any touch, including like the stranger in Publix touching your child. I'm so sorry. How fucking weird. I just would never do that. I would look at this person and be like, your baby is so cute. Can I hold it? Can I touch it? Like, even that, if you have to say it out loud, you realize how fucking weird it sounds.
But like, I mean, and here's the other thing. The germaphobe in me, when he was little, like, obviously my child was a NICU baby. Like, maybe one of these episodes we'll talk about all of that life. But I didn't even want like family members touching him because he was so fresh. He didn't have any of his vaccines. Like, anyway, this is another rabbit hole. So,
Yeah.
anyway, another thing, if you think about it, if you're in crisis, say a family member passes away or car accident or, situations like this, I tend to see that physical touch is obviously one of the quickest ways to show your love and concern to somebody in a situation like this. Hugs, arm around you, anything I can do, those types of situations. And again, I think love languages, this love language in general, gets very mistaken for just being sex. And it's not, it's the non-sexual, sorry. It's the non-sexual touches that we're really mostly talking about in this love language.
So, Caitlin, what are some examples of non sexual physical touch?
So, some examples that I have for you would be you're out to dinner. This could be with a first date, your significant other, whoever. This one's definitely more leaning more towards, being in a relationship. Hand across the table, holding, like, touch their hand during dinner, like across the table. Let them know, you care, you're listening to the conversation. That little bit of spark happens right there. Or grabbing and holding on to somebody's arm when you're walking down the streets. Feel up their muscles, man. Like, I love touching my man's arm. This one is my husband's favorite. Running fingers through your hair while trying to go to sleep. It's soothing, it's relaxing, and I swear to you, if I go like this and rub my husband's head for 45 seconds, he can fall asleep like instantly. It's insane.
That
Um,
does feel oddly good, having your
I
head
know.
rubbed.
And it's not just for men. Like,
Bizarre.
I actually really like when Mike plays with my hair. He'll just like kind of like run his fingers through it. Like, so consent though. Some people don't like that. And sometimes when he does it, I'm like, I don't want this right now. Get off of me, shoo
Hmm.
fly. Another good way is you're cuddling, you're watching TV on the couch. Put your legs up on your significant other, male, female, whatever type of relationship you're in. Get comfy, cozy, and relaxed with them. When they come home from work, hug them, look into their eyes, stare into their soul, let them know that you care about them. This is another big one for me. And I think it's important, especially when you're out of the house. So when you're at functions with your significant other, putting your hand on their leg, or, just resting your hand on their leg, whether you're at a wedding, you're at a show, you're at the movies, you're at Thanksgiving dinner, this type of intimate touch, it's kind of like we're in it together, whatever the function may be, and that you're there and that you're united, you're a team, and you don't have to have all the PDA in order to feel close and connected to that person. Um, Cuddling together in bed, especially if it doesn't lead to anything. It does not have to be, considered physical touch. Giving them a nice loving massage before they ask for one. So, hello, my shoulders are always knotted, and it's like one of those things, like, you hate having to ask, but you're like, listen, for me right now, I breastfeed, so I'm like hunched over like the Hunchback of Notre Dame all the time, and I'm like, rub my shoulders, bro. Like, I would not be mad. God, that sounds great right now. Um, Kiss them softly on the forehead, the cheek, like those types of like little intimate moments. Now, obviously, these are all for intimate like relationships with a partner. With your friends, if your love language is physical touch, put your arm around your friend. Like, let's go. Like, hype man them. Like, I hype man, hype woman up my people. Like, if you're out, you're doing something fun, high fives, those go a long way with physical touch, or fist bumps, like whatever you feel comfortable with. So this doesn't just have to be, again, with your partner. When in company, give your partner a good little hand squeeze on an inside joke, or just like, oh my gosh, this person's driving me crazy. That's a good physical touch. Been there, done that a couple times in my life with my
Hmm.
husband. And then, well, when they do well, at a sporting event, or you're doing something, high fives. Like, I can't actually tell you if I've high fived my husband anytime recently. So it's not natural, I guess.
It's not my go-to,
Yeah.
but
I'm trying to think of the last time I high-fived my husband.
it's an option. It's an
Yeah,
option.
it's an option.
It's on the table, people. If
High
this
five.
resonates with you. Yeah,
High
high five.
fives. But you know what? Maybe you are a PDA type person. If you are and your significant other is and they're okay with it, consent, do it. Like, who cares? Make out with your person in public. Do you boo boo? Like, it's funny because again, I think that this all is very individualized to certain couples. But if one couple's love language is physical touch and yours isn't, you have to have a conversation about what you find acceptable to do in public and what you feel comfortable doing, because you don't ever want to put somebody in a situation where they don't feel comfortable. So, having this conversation of what you feel comfortable doing in front of family, not in front of family, friends, in public, whatever that might look like, it's important to have the conversation.
I think that's been the theme of all of the past 4, now 5 episodes, which is like just have a conversation about whatever it is that you're needing or wanting in your relationship to feel appreciated, seen, heard, and loved. And this is no exception.
Exactly. And I also think if you know your significant other's love language, you're going to get so much further and be able to love them in the ways that they need to be loved by you on a daily basis. And it will build that love and connection and probably create more moments for the intimate moments in your life that you maybe have been missing. Maybe you have kids. Maybe you guys both work all the time and like you're just passing ships, like different schedules. It's important to figure out what your significant other's love language is. Overall, I think that touch means different things for different people, and it's important to determine what that looks like for you and your family members, your friends, your spouses. Like, I know which of my friends are huggers and which ones aren't, and who needs that physical touch from me when I see them and who doesn't. So it's important to know, especially the people that are closest to you, what their love language is. So if you haven't already, go take the love language test. Have your significant other do it. Tell your friends to take it. Share this episode with your family members. And most importantly, we hope that you enjoyed this mini series that we did on the 5 love languages. If you've tried any of these things out, of our suggestions that we've offered in all 5 of these episodes, let us know. I want to know if you did it with your friends, your partner, your family. Did you have a game night? Because I still haven't had one since we last recorded that episode. And just make sure that you're loving people well and in their love language. I think it's the most important way to connect with them and to communicate with them clearly and effectively. And again, share, like, hit the follow button, and subscribe. And we will see you soon for our next episode.
See you next week.